It was a normal afternoon. The sun was warm and the air smelled like fresh grass. Birds sang softly and a gentle breeze moved through the tall trees. Everything seemed peaceful. But sometimes, the scariest moments happen on the quietest days. 12-year-old. Emily walked along the old river path behind her house. She loved coming here. The sound of the water always made her feel calm. It was like the river whispered stories to her. The sun reflected off the water, making it sparkle like tiny diamonds. Emily smiled. She loved these small moments. After all, life hadn't been easy for her. Since her mother passed away a year ago, Emily often felt lonely. The house was so quiet now. Her father tried his best, but the sadness always stayed. The one who always stayed by her side was Charlie, her golden retriever. Charlie was not just a dog to Emily. He was her best friend, her protector, her comfort. Wherever Emily went, Charlie followed. His big brown eyes were always full of love. His tail wagged every time she smiled. He had been with her since she was a little girl. When she cried at night, Charlie would gently lay his head on her lap. When she was scared, he would sit close like a warm blanket that never left her side. As Emily walked closer to the old dock, Charlie stayed right behind her, his paws making soft sounds on the wooden boards. The dock was very old, built many years ago. The wood was dark and weak, but Emily didn't think about that. She was too lost in her thoughts. She looked out at the flowing water, her eyes following the slow waves. She didn't notice that one. Of the wooden boards was loose, barely holding on. She stepped forward. Suddenly there was a loud crack. The board broke under her foot. Emily gasped as her body slipped forward. In a blink, she was falling. The cold river swallowed her instantly. The water was much colder than she expected. It wrapped around her like icy hands pulling her down. She tried to scream, but water filled her mouth. Panic filled her heart. She kicked her legs, trying to reach the surface, but the current was strong. It pulled her like a giant hand. Above the water, Charlie barked loudly. His barks echoed through the trees, sharp and full of fear. His best friend was in trouble, and he could feel it in his bones. Emily's arms swung wildly, but her body was heavy. The cold water made her weak. She couldn't breathe. Everything started to turn dark. She could hear the loud rushing sound of the river in her ears. It was like the world was spinning, but she couldn't stop it. Charlie didn't wait. His love for Emily was stronger than any fear. Without thinking, he jumped into the river. His body hit the water with a splash. The current was strong, but Charlie swam harder than ever before. His eyes searched for Emily. He could barely see her small figure under the water. Time was running out. With powerful strokes, Charlie swam closer and closer. His heart pounded in his chest. He knew he had to reach her. The river pulled at him, trying to push him away, but Charlie kept going. Finally, he reached her. Emily's body was floating, her eyes closed, her face pale. She looked so small in the wide, wild river. Carefully, Charlie grabbed the back of her jacket with his teeth. He made sure not to hurt her. Now came the hardest part. Getting her back to land. The current pulled them both, but Charlie kicked with all his strength. His legs burned, but he didn't stop. The shore seemed so far away. Every second felt like forever. On the riverbank, neighbors started to gather. They heard the barking and shouting. People screamed for help. But it was Charlie who fought the river. Inch by inch, he dragged Emily toward safety. Would he make it? Would Emily breathe again? No one knew yet. But Charlie refused to let go. The river was no longer calm. The peaceful water Emily once loved had turned into a monster. The strong current pulled her deeper and deeper. She tried to scream, but water filled her mouth. Her arms swung wildly, but there was nothing to hold on to. The cold water wrapped around her like heavy chains, making it harder for her to move. Every second felt longer than the last. Emily's heart raced. She was scared. She thought of her father, her school friends, and her late mother. The world around her became blurry. She couldn't keep her head above water. She was drowning. But Emily was not alone. Charlie, her golden retriever, saw everything. His sharp eyes followed her every movement as she slipped into the dangerous water. His body tensed. Without any hesitation, Charlie leapt from the riverbank and splashed into the wild current. The water was rough and cold, but Charlie was strong. He paddled with all his might, moving his paws quickly, cutting through the water like a boat. His only mission was to save Emily. Nothing else mattered to him. Not the strong current, not the cold, not his own fear. Under the water, Emily was sinking fast. Her small body spun and twisted as the river pushed her along. Her vision faded. Her breath stopped. She felt like she was floating between two worlds, one of light and one of darkness. Charlie reached her just in time. With his strong jaws, he gently grabbed the back of Emily's jacket. He was careful not to hurt her. The current pulled against him, but Charlie fought back. His muscles burned. His chest hurt, but he kept kicking, kept pulling Emily upwards, back towards life. Above the surface, people had gathered. Some neighbors had heard the screams. Others saw Charlie jump into the river. They shouted for help, calling for someone to come. Some ran along the riverbank, trying to follow Charlie as he struggled to swim back with Emily. One man shouted, "Hold on, boy, you can do it." The river didn't want to let go. The current was strong. Charlie's back legs kicked harder. His head stayed high so Emily's face could stay above water. He panted, but he didn't stop. Inch by inch, stroke by stroke, he moved closer to the riverbank. Finally, strong hands reached out. Two men waded into the water and grabbed Emily's arms. Carefully, they pulled her out of the river. Her small body was cold and still. Her lips were blue. She wasn't breathing. Charlie crawled out of the water behind her and collapsed on the grass, his chest heaving, his fur soaked. He let out a low, painful whine as he nudged Emily's hand with his wet nose. He licked her face softly, hoping she would open her eyes. But she didn't move. Her father arrived seconds later, his face full of fear and panic. "Emily, Emily," he cried, falling to his knees beside her. His hands trembled as he started to press down on her chest. He had learned CPR years ago, but now every move felt like it might break her. The people around held their breath. The world seemed frozen. "Come on, baby. Please," her father whispered with tears rolling down his face. Charlie whimpered, laying his head beside Emily's hand. His body shook, not from cold, but from helplessness. He had done everything he could. Now it was up to something bigger. Suddenly, Emily coughed. A weak, raspy cough. Water poured from her mouth as her body jerked. She gasped for air, her eyes slowly opening. A soft cry escaped her lips. "She's breathing," someone shouted. Her father wept, hugging her tightly. People cheered. Some clapped. Others wiped tears from their eyes. Charlie let out a small, tired bark and gently licked her cheek again. His mission was complete, for now. But the fight wasn't over yet. The ambulance sirens screamed in the distance. They still had to get her to the hospital. The danger wasn't completely gone. But because of Charlie, there was hope. The hospital room was cold and quiet. Only the soft beeping of machines filled the air. Emily lay still on the white hospital bed. Her skin was pale like snow. Her tiny chest moved up and down very slowly. Tubes and wires were attached to her small body. Her father stood beside her, holding her hand gently, his eyes full of fear and sadness. Charlie, her golden retriever, sat outside the room. His fur was still wet from the river. His eyes never left the door. He was waiting for his best friend. Nurses walked by, but Charlie didn't move. His eyes were filled with something no human could explain. Worry, love, and hope, all at once. Doctors and nurses whispered to each other. They had done everything they could. Emily had water in her lungs. Her fever was high. The medicine was not helping. The doctors shook their heads. One of them spoke softly to Emily's father. "We are doing our best," the doctor said. "But we are very worried." Emily's father felt like his heart was breaking. He looked at his little girl and whispered, "Please fight, Emily. Please stay with me." Hours passed. The night grew darker. The machines kept beeping, but the sounds were not steady. Sometimes the beeping slowed, sometimes it raced. The doctors checked her again and again, but there was little change. Meanwhile, Charlie still sat by the door. His tail no longer wagged. He looked tired, but he refused to leave. His brown eyes watched every person who came in and out. Every time the door opened, he lifted his head, hoping to see Emily. The head nurse noticed him sitting there for so long. She whispered to another nurse, "Look at him. He's waiting for her. He knows." Emily's father finally turned to the nurses. His voice was weak but firm. "Please," he said, "let Charlie see her." The doctors hesitated. "It's against hospital rules," one of them said. "No animals inside the ICU." But another nurse, an older one, looked at the little girl's weak body. She thought for a moment and then spoke quietly. "Maybe he can help," she said. "Sometimes love is stronger than medicine." After a long pause, the head doctor finally nodded. "All right, bring the dog in." Charlie was led inside. His paws made soft sounds on the shiny floor. The moment he saw Emily, his whole body changed. His ears perked up, his eyes softened, and his tail wagged slowly. He walked carefully to the side of the bed. He looked at Emily for a long second, as if trying to understand everything. Then very gently he jumped onto the bed and lay down beside her. Charlie placed his head on her chest, right above her heart. He closed his eyes, breathing softly. His body was warm and calm, like a soft blanket wrapped around her. The room fell, silent. The nurses watched with wide eyes. The doctors held their breath. Then something changed. The machine started to beep more steadily. Her heartbeat became stronger. Her breathing, which had been weak, grew deeper. The numbers on the screen slowly went up. "She's stabilizing," one nurse whispered in shock. Emily's father looked at the monitors and then back at his daughter. His hands covered his mouth as tears filled his eyes. Minutes passed, and then Emily's eyelids fluttered. Her lips moved slowly, barely making a sound. But everyone in the room heard the one word she softly whispered, "Charlie." The nurses gasped. The doctor's eyes widened. Emily was awake. Her father broke down, crying softly, "You came back. You came back, sweetheart." Charlie licked her cheek gently, his tail wagging faster now. He stayed close, his body still and warm beside her. He had never left her. And now, his love had pulled her back from the edge. Nobody in the room spoke, for a while. The machines kept beeping, stronger and steadier now. Emily was alive. And Charlie had done something no one expected. The doctors couldn't explain it. The nurses couldn't explain it. But everyone knew they had witnessed something special, something powerful. The love of a dog had brought Emily back. The room was quiet. Only the soft beeping of machines filled the air. Emily lay still in her hospital bed. Her face was pale, and her breathing was weak. The doctors had done everything they could, but her condition was not getting better. The cold water had hurt her lungs badly. Now everyone was waiting, hoping, and praying for a miracle. Her father sat by her side, holding her tiny hand. Tears ran down his face. He whispered, "Stay strong, Emily. You can do it." But deep inside, fear was eating him alive. He was losing hope. Outside the hospital room, Charlie sat silently. His fur was still damp. His eyes were tired, but full of love. He had not moved from the door since they brought Emily here. Nurses and doctors tried to move him away, but he stayed. He was waiting for his girl. He would not leave her. She was his world. Then, something changed. One of the nurses remembered how Charlie had helped Emily before. Long ago, when Emily had a high fever as a little girl, Charlie had laid beside her, keeping her warm all night. By morning, her fever was gone. It was like his presence gave her strength. The nurse whispered this story to the head doctor. The doctor paused. He looked at Emily's weak body. The machines were struggling to keep her alive. Finally, he said, "Bring the dog in." The nurse opened the door, and Charlie slowly walked in. His paws made soft sounds on the hospital floor. When he reached the bed, he looked up at Emily. His tail wagged gently. He could sense her pain. Charlie carefully jumped onto the bed, being careful not to hurt her. He lay next to her, his body curling around her small frame. His head rested on her chest. His warm breath moved softly. His heart beat steady and strong. He was telling her, "I am here. You are not alone." The doctors and nurses watched in silence. No one spoke. Everyone felt something special was happening. Minutes passed. At first, nothing changed. The machines kept beeping the same weak sound. But then, slowly, the rhythm changed. The monitor showed a stronger heartbeat. Her breathing became a little easier. Her color returned to her face. The doctor leaned in, his eyes wide with surprise. "It's working," he whispered. Charlie stayed perfectly still, his eyes never leaving Emily's face. It was like he was giving her his strength, his warmth, and his love. Suddenly, Emily's fingers twitched. Her lips moved slightly. Then, her eyelids fluttered open. She blinked, confused, but awake. Her father gasped and cried, "Emily, you're awake." Small smile formed on her face. In a soft, weak voice, she whispered, "Charlie." The room filled with gasps and tears. Nurses wiped their eyes. The doctor smiled for the first time in hours. The impossible had happened. Emily was awake. She was alive. Days turned into weeks. Emily grew stronger. Charlie never left her side. He followed her everywhere in the hospital. The story of their bond spread everywhere. News reporters came to interview the family. People from all over the world sent letters and gifts. Everyone called Charlie a hero. But for Charlie, none of that mattered. All he wanted was Emily safe and happy. Months later, Emily stood on a stage at her school. She had fully recovered. She looked out at the crowd, smiling brightly. "I want to thank my doctors, my family, but most of all I thank Charlie. He never gave up on me." The crowd stood up and clapped. In the front row, Charlie barked once as if saying, "I'll always be here." Years later, even as Charlie grew old and gray, the bond between them stayed strong. He was not just a pet. He was her guardian, her best friend, her miracle. And everyone who heard their story knew, sometimes love itself can heal the deepest wounds.